Ireland, London, and New York. For those of you who have not been to the book club discussion series before, we'll begin with a reading from the book, and then Anjelica and I will chat about the book and her creative process until about 8:40, 8:45, and at that point we will invite you to join the conversation by asking questions of your own till around 9 o'clock. And then there'll be book signing, that kind of thing. So I'm supposed to introduce Anjelica, but you all know who she is, and she doesn't really need an introduction. And since this book really covers a very particular chapter of her life, I'm gonna hog a little bit of a moment to talk about the part of her life where she entered my life, which was really took place when we were putting together the pilot of Smash. I knew her a little bit through, yes. Wherever it is. But you've all been blessed by seeing her astonishing performances in films and on television over the years, as I have. And to tell you that that is like a little drop in the ocean of respect and adoration that I had from having the great good fortune of actually getting to direct her in Smash. It's an understatement. I can't say enough about what a real privilege it was to work with her. And then to be able to call her a friend is kind of beyond imagining. There was a book party for her last night at the Monkey Club, and she was just telling me earlier that she had friends there who were well into their 90s and other friends who were in their 20s. And I think it's quite telling about her as a person that once you are, in her fold, you're there for life, and it's a beautiful thing and something that I'm eternally grateful for and delighted to be here to talk with her in front of you all. And so without further ado, Anjelica Huston.
Thank you so much. There was a shrine in my mother's bedroom when I was growing up. The built-in wardrobe had a mirror on the interior of both doors and a bureau inside, higher than I was, with an array of perfume bottles and small objects on the surface and a wall of burlap stretched above it. Pinned to the burlap was a collage of things she'd collected. Pictures that she'd torn out of magazines, poems, pomander balls, a fox's tail tied with a red ribbon, a brooch I'd bought her from Woolworths that spelled mother, malachite, a photograph of Siobhan McKenna as St. Joan. Standing between the glass doors, I loved to look at her possessions, the mirrors reflecting me into infinity. I was a lonely child. My brother Tony and I were never very close, neither as children nor as adults, but I was tightly bound to him. We were forced to be together because we were on our own. Although I knew he loved me, I always felt that Tony had it in for me a bit, and that a year older than I, he was always having to fight for what he had. We were in the middle of the Irish countryside in County Galway, in the west of Ireland. And we didn't see many other kids. We were tutored, and my life was mostly fantasy, wishing that I were Catholic so that I could have Holy Communion, and wearing my mother's tutus on the front lawn, hoping a husband would come along so that I might marry him. I also spent quite a lot of time in front of the bathroom mirror. Nearby there was a stack of books. My favorites were The Death of Manolete and the cartoons of Charles Adams. I would pretend to be Morticia Adams. I was drawn to her. I used to pull my eyes back and see how I'd look with slanted eyelids. I liked Sophia Loren a lot. I'd seen pictures of her, and she was my ideal of female beauty at the time. Then I would pore over the photographs of the great bullfighter Manolete, dressed in his suit of lights, praying to the Madonna for her protection, taking the cape under his arm, preparing to enter the bullring. The solemnity, the ritual of the occasion was tangible in the pictures, and then the terrible aftermath. Manolete gored in the groin, blood black on the sand. It mystified me that even though he'd obviously won the fight, there were also photographs illustrating the subsequent slaughter of the bull. I felt it was a gross injustice, and my heart wept for both the bull and Manolete. I found that I could make myself cry very easily. Tony began to question whether I wasn't using this ability to my advantage. I think he had a point. But for me, it was always about feeling. People often think that looking in the mirror is about narcissism. Children look at their reflection to see who they are. And they want to see what they can do with it, how plastic they can be. They can touch their nose with their tongue, or what it looks like when they cross their eyes. There are a lot of things to do in the mirror, apart from just feasting on a sense of one's physical beauty. I was born at 6:29 p.m. on July the 8th, 1951, at the Cedars of Lebanon Hospital in Los Angeles. At 8 pounds, 13 ounces, I was a big, healthy baby. The news of my arrival was cabled promptly to the post office in the township of Butaiba in western Uganda. 2 days later, a barefoot runner bearing a telegram finally arrived at Murchison Falls, a waterfall on the Nile, deep in the heart of the Belgian Congo, where the African Queen was being filmed. My father, John Marcellus Huston, was a director renowned for his adventurous style and audacious nature. Even though it was considered foolhardy, he persuaded not only Katharine Hepburn, an actress in her prime, but also Humphrey Bogart, who brought along his famously beautiful wife, the movie star Lauren Bacall, to share the hazardous journey. My mother, heavily pregnant, had stayed behind in Los Angeles with my 1-year-old brother, Tony. When the messenger handed the telegram to my father, he glanced at it and then put it in his pocket. Katie Hepburn exclaimed, "For God's sakes, John, what does it say?" And he said, "It's a girl. Her name is Anjelica." Dad was 6'2" and long-legged, taller and stronger, and with a more beautiful voice than anybody. His hair was salt and pepper. He had the broken nose of a boxer and a dramatic air about him. I don't remember ever seeing him run. Rather, he ambled or took long, fast strides. He walked loose-limbed and sway-backed like an American, but dressed like an English gentleman. Corduroy trousers, crisp shirts, knotted silk ties, jackets with suede elbows, tweed caps, fine custom-made leather shoes, and pajamas from Sulca with his initials on the pocket. He smelled of fresh tobacco and Guerlain's lime cologne. An omnipresent cigarette dangled from his fingers. It was almost an extension of his body. His tone was carefully unstudied and casual. His tastes were eclectic. At work, he wore bush jackets and khakis, as if going to war. Over the years, I've heard my father described as a Lothario, a drinker, a gambler, a man's man, more interested in killing big game than in making movies. It is true that he was extravagant and opinionated, but Dad was complicated, self-educated for the most part, inquisitive and well-read. Not only women, but men of all ages fell in love with my father, with that strange loyalty and forbearance men reserve for one another. They were drawn to his wisdom, his humor, his magnanimous power. They considered him a lion, a leader, the pirate they wished they had the audacity to be. Although